Lakers Nation, what is going on? So in today's video we have a very interesting Lakers trade idea that would completely change the look of this roster. We are talking about Jonathan Kuminga and Klay Thompson potentially coming to Los Angeles in the same deal. And honestly, Lakers fans, this is one of those trades where when you first look at the names you might immediately get excited. Klay Thompson coming back to Los Angeles. Jonathan Kuminga joining Luka Doncic and the Lakers. But once you actually look at what the Lakers would have to give up and how these pieces would fit together, there is a lot more to talk about. So let's break this entire thing down and I'll give you my honest opinion on whether I think the Lakers should actually make this move. According to the trade idea reported by Yahoo Sports and Heavy.com, the Lakers would receive Jonathan Kuminga and Klay Thompson. The Mavericks would receive Dalton Knecht, Jaden Hardy, LaRavia, Bronny James and multiple second-round picks. And the Hawks would receive Jarred Vanderbilt along with a 2032 first-round pick swap. On top of that, the Lakers would sign Jonathan Kuminga to a 3-year contract starting at around $19 million for the 2026-27 season, while also taking on Klay Thompson's expiring $17.4 million contract. And right away there are two completely different reasons why the Lakers would be interested in these players. Jonathan Kuminga is the upside play. Klay Thompson is the immediate veteran shooting play. And when you put those two things together, I can understand exactly why this idea is getting attention. Let's start with Kuminga. The Lakers have been looking for another athletic wing who can actually attack the basket and give this team more physicality. Kuminga gives you that. He is still young and he is still trying to prove that he deserves to be paid like a major piece of an NBA team. And that is actually what makes this situation interesting for the Lakers. Because Kuminga is not coming into Los Angeles as some finished superstar. The Lakers would be betting on what he could become. And I actually think that could make sense next to Luka Doncic. Luka is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. You need players around him who can do things without needing to dominate the basketball. Kuminga can run the floor. He can attack closeouts. He can put pressure on the rim. He can give you athleticism that this Lakers roster needs. And if he develops into a more consistent defender and shooter, then suddenly you are looking at a player who could become a major part of the Lakers' future. But I also want to be realistic here. Kuminga is not coming to Los Angeles and immediately fixing every problem. There are still questions about his consistency. There are questions about his shooting. There are questions about his decision-making. And defensively, he is not some all-defensive level player. So the Lakers would have to believe that their coaching staff can get more out of him. And I think that is the biggest question. Can the Lakers turn Kuminga into the player they believe he can become? Because if they can, then $19 million could eventually look like a bargain. Now let's talk about Klay Thompson. This is where the trade becomes really interesting to me. Because Klay would give the Lakers something they desperately need around Luka. Shooting. We all know what Klay Thompson has been throughout his career. He is one of the greatest shooters of his generation. Obviously, he is not the same player he was during his Warriors championship years. We have to be honest about that. But the threat of Klay Thompson standing behind the three-point line still matters. Defenses cannot just completely ignore him. And when you have Luka Doncic creating shots for everyone, that can become extremely valuable. Think about what happens when Luka gets into the paint. The defense collapses. Klay is sitting on the perimeter. That is exactly the type of situation where you want a player like Thompson. Luka can find him. Klay can get the shot off quickly. And now the defense has to make a difficult decision. Do you help on Luka? Or do you stay attached to Klay? That is the type of spacing the Lakers need. And there is another part of this that I think Lakers fans would absolutely love. Klay Thompson is from Los Angeles. So this would be a homecoming. And according to the report, Klay is interested in playing for his hometown franchise. Imagine Klay Thompson wearing a Lakers jersey at Crypto.com Arena. That alone would create a massive amount of attention. But the Lakers cannot make this trade simply because it would be a cool story. This has to be about basketball. And basketball-wise, I think there is a legitimate argument for it. The Lakers would be replacing several pieces with two players who have very different strengths. You would be losing Dalton Knecht. You would be losing LaRavia. You would be losing Jaden Hardy. You would be losing Bronny James. You would also be moving Jarred Vanderbilt in the Atlanta portion of the deal. And obviously giving up draft assets. That is a lot. So this is where Rob Pelinka has to be careful. Because I don't want the Lakers making a trade just to make a trade. The Lakers already made a lot of changes this offseason. They have brought in a bunch of new players. And the biggest question surrounding this roster is not whether they have enough players. It is whether they have the right players. And I think Kuminga and Klay potentially address two different problems. Kuminga gives you athleticism and upside. Klay gives you shooting and experience. That combination makes sense next to Luka. But there is one thing that concerns me. Defense. The article itself points out that neither Kuminga nor Klay is an all-defensive level defender. And that matters. Because the Lakers cannot build this entire roster around offense and expect Luka to somehow cover every defensive problem. You need players who can defend their position. You need size. You need physicality. You need players who can survive switches. And you need to be able to get stops late in playoff games. Kuminga has the physical tools to become a better defender. Klay has experience and size for his position. But neither one is going to suddenly turn the Lakers into an elite defensive team. So I would look at this trade as an offensive upgrade and a potential long-term upside move more than a defensive solution. And then we have the biggest part of the Kuminga situation. His contract. According to the report, the Lakers previously made a 2-year $20 million offer to Kuminga back in July. But Kuminga wanted more. Now the Lakers have less flexibility and would need to use a sign and trade. And this is where I think the Lakers actually have some leverage. If other teams are not willing to give Kuminga more than around $18 million, then the Lakers do not necessarily need to panic. They can wait. They can let the market develop. And if Kuminga really wants to be in Los Angeles, the Lakers can potentially get him on a contract that they believe is manageable. The proposed $19 million starting salary is interesting because the Lakers could structure the contract in a way that gives them some protection moving forward. And that is important. Because I don't want the Lakers giving Kuminga a massive contract before knowing exactly what he is going to become. Give him an opportunity. Give him a role. See how he fits next to Luka. And then decide whether he is actually worth being a long-term part of the team. Now here is my biggest question about the entire trade. Are the Lakers giving up too much? Dalton Knecht is still young. Jaden Hardy is young. LaRavia is young. Bronny James is young. And then you are giving up multiple second-round picks. Plus Vanderbilt. So you are basically sacrificing depth and some young pieces for two players who you believe are better fits right now. That is a gamble. But I think this is where the Lakers have to decide what their timeline is. If this team is trying to maximize Luka Doncic's prime, then you cannot just keep collecting young players and hoping everything eventually works. At some point you have to make decisions. Luka needs players around him who fit. And that is why I understand the logic behind this proposal. Klay can space the floor. Kuminga can attack the basket. Luka can control the offense. Walker Kessler gives them size and rim protection. Austin Reeves gives them another ball handler and scorer. And suddenly the Lakers have a much different offensive identity. You would have Luka creating. Klay spacing. Kuminga attacking. Reeves making plays. And Kessler controlling the paint. That is a lineup I would be very interested in seeing. But I would still have some hesitation. Because if the Lakers make this trade, they need to be absolutely certain that Kuminga is worth the investment. And they need to know exactly what version of Klay they are getting. If Klay is giving you reliable shooting and solid veteran minutes, then I like it. If he struggles badly defensively and his shooting becomes inconsistent, then that expiring contract becomes the biggest benefit. Because at least the Lakers are not necessarily locking themselves into Klay long term. And that is another reason this proposal is interesting. The Lakers could look at Klay as a short-term addition. You are not necessarily saying this is the guy who is going to be here for the next 5 years. You are saying, we need shooting right now. We need another veteran. We want to maximize Luka's window. And Klay can help us do that. Meanwhile, Kuminga is the bigger long-term bet. That is how I would look at it. Klay is the immediate piece. Kuminga is the upside piece. And Luka is the reason you are doing all of it. So would I make this trade? Honestly, I would seriously consider it. I would not rush into it. I would not give up more assets than what is being proposed. And I would absolutely want protections and flexibility built into Kuminga's contract. But if the Lakers can land Kuminga at around that $19 million starting salary and Klay is coming in on an expiring contract, then I think there is enough upside here to make the gamble. Because the Lakers need to think bigger than just this season. They need players who can help Luka now while also giving this roster another level of upside moving forward. And Kuminga could potentially become that player. Klay meanwhile could give Luka one of the most important things you can surround a superstar with. Elite shooting. Now, does this guarantee the Lakers are winning a championship? Absolutely not. There are still plenty of questions. But I think this would make the Lakers more dangerous. And more importantly, it would give this roster a completely different look. Jonathan Kuminga brings the youth. Klay Thompson brings the experience. Luka Doncic brings the superstar talent. And if everything clicks, this could be one of those moves that looks risky when it happens but makes a lot more sense once you see the team on the court. So Lakers Nation, I want to know what you think. Would you give up Dalton Knecht, Jaden Hardy, LaRavia, Bronny James and the draft assets in order to get Jonathan Kuminga and Klay Thompson? Or do you think the Lakers should keep their young players and pursue a different target? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we have plenty more Lakers off-season news and trade rumors coming your way. Lakers Nation, I'll see you in the next one.